Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and this is the next tabletop simulator map for Hoard of the Dragon Queen Chapter 6 that's going on kind of right behind me here. At least that's what I hope is happening with this green screen. But anyway, this is the next map. Now this map, there's not a lot of maps in Chapter 6, let's face it, right? There's only a handful. Actually, matter of fact, there's only like 3 when you get down to it, and that's the 3 levels of the castle. Well, there's also the cavern below and all that kind of stuff. But you know, DMs, we change this up, we go different routes. Anyway, sometimes you get hit with the unexpected. Now, you've seen a lot of my tabletop simulator maps. There's tons of Chapter 6 maps. I mean, this is probably the biggest chapter out of the entire book. And I've had to do a lot of swamp encounters. I think there's like 3 or 4 maybe. I did something even prior to that with the testing of one of our clerics in the Trial of Kelemvor, which is also kind of a Chapter 6 towards the beginning. You know, really, not really in the book. Don't worry about that. Just kind of concerning my own campaign and where my characters, you know, the decisions they made and where they were going. But Chapter 6 is just huge. If you want to have swamp encounters, you're going to have a lot of maps. I mean, if you're going this route. But anyway, this is the next one. This is the one of the ones that I wasn't really anticipating. I didn't know what was going to happen. And when we got to the castle, finally, when we got to the castle, they snuck in a way that I never quite anticipated. I didn't know what they were going to do. Everything was up in the air. So hence this map, or maybe I should point here, this map. As you can see here, I'm kind of looking at another video here to make sure I'm commentating on different things. But I mean, here I'm putting down the green water. Now, when I did this, I did a few sketches. I'm not going to show any of that kind of stuff here. It wasn't really worth showing. But I typically start in the sketching phase. Matter of fact, I'll put another quick image up to kind of superimpose over this. You can see this here. This is the boat ride that actually is a time-lapse video on my tabletop simulator playlist, where you can see I had a whole scenario that didn't even play out at all. We totally axed it, but usually, yes, I start with a sketch and kind of render it, you know, very quickly, and then build off that. This is the same thing. Here I am. I knew I needed the right back end of the castle. And look, there's only one image of Castle Natier, or whatever the heck it's called. There's only one image, so you have to kind of wing it, right? And there weren't a lot of models that I could choose from or pull from in the workshop. As you can see here, I have gone in and I've used, I can't remember this guy's name. He's got a lot of great models, but I use these walls here with the I'll get this green screen right, the moss and everything. So what I had to do with those is really stretch them out using a volume scaler and stretch them out horizontally and vertically and kind of really push it out. And that's the only choice I had. Now, there were some other different textures I could have worked with, but they just, I don't know, they didn't quite work. I couldn't find much of anything that was with brick on brick, you know, just boop, boop, stone, 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 so it looked like the sides of a castle wall. There was one model that was a spire already built, but I just didn't feel like it fit the flavor. I didn't like the over model. You can see here, though, I'm taking very simple little props here, just little props, and you know, really stretching them out. This is a key, right? So if you want to do this, you could take the simplest model and stretch it out and use that volume scaler to make it huge or make it spread out in a particular area. Like these bushes here, I took the volume scaler and spread them out pretty wide, but also turned the model and like flattened the model. So now, as you can see there, it kind of looks like vines going up the side of the castle, because again, this is happening in a swamp, and I wanted to push that. You know, I didn't want to have this castle and no vegetation. So here I am kind of testing a little bit of the lighting. Looks like I'm putting down some fog there. And I did a little bit on the top of the walls here, these little, I forgot what they're called, palisades, I'm not sure, those little stubs of concrete or stone wall up there. They usually go around a tower. I can't believe I can't think of the name right now. But I tried that. It didn't quite work. I didn't feel like doing that, so I kind of took them away. And you'll see this in the video several times. I go back to it and just nix it. Some things just don't work. But here, you know, I'm still pulling out all the things that I might use or want to use and, you know, putting to the side, you know, just trying to see. So sometimes I'm in someone's, I think this is a ruins pack where just you have ruined fountains and broken pottery and skeletons and all kinds of different things you can use to pepper, you know, along your map to give it some environmental storytelling, different things. It's hard to see here, but there are some actually dead skeletons where people have tried to come to the castle in this area, or maybe their bodies were dragged over here from crocodiles, or the giant spiders that live in that particular tower. And that's the funny thing about this, having to create this map. I never anticipated them going that direction, but on top of that, they went to the one spot where there was a hole in the roof. Luckily, just through spying and caught it. But also they go in the one spot where there are 5, I think there's actually more than that, but 5 giant spiders nesting in. And that's the next thing I'm going to do here at Campaign Diary that's going to address all that. And it was actually one of the funnest games I've played in a long time. But here I am. I'm kind of, I don't know in Tabletop Simulator what those orange cubes, like you see in the background, they go around the perimeter of the table. And every time you hit the selection tool, they pop up. I'm not sure exactly what those are. So oftentimes you'll see me just push them out of the way. Maybe they're used for online stuff when you start sharing maps with other individuals and you play online in VR or just online like you would Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds. There's something to those. Maybe that's where players can put their stuff and they interact with that area. For me, they just get in my way pretty constantly, actually. Yeah, here I am still fleshing out that, let's see, the right side. And this is another good example of this. A good example of using the volume scaler. I took a rock pack that was huge and pretty much flattened it like a pancake and spread it out. And that right there is the same model over and over and over again. And there was no need to go and try to find another rock and do all this stuff. Again, you're under time. You're under pressure. You got to get some stuff done. But I used that and I kind of twisted and turned it and gave it a little bit of randomness on both sides and just spread it out. As you can see there, it's going all the way around the castle. And of course, I'm not here to build the entire castle. That's just simply not going to happen. What I'm here to do is basically just do that one little corner and get it done. So here again, now you can really see there those cubes. It's just in the way. I push them out of the way. And I'm still using that same rock. A lot of the bushes are the same. And so I didn't want to, even though the castle's kind of built in a swamp, I kind of wanted to have some terrain around it. So that's what I did there. Now, why did I put the terrain there? Well, also, I think it looks fine. I mean, it looks fine in the water too, but that looks a little bit better. But also I had to think about the characters and the heroes, what they're going to do. I at least gave them a platform, if you will, to walk around the castle if they wanted to, right? So just to anticipate things. Because oftentimes I don't anticipate things. I mean, I do a little bit, but sometimes things go just wacky. So that's why on that side of the castle, I put land and allowed a path. And also on the right side, where I will start building up the bushes, that also has a little bit of path there. Now, there's also another reason for that. Giant crocodiles. I have made giant crocodiles the #1 threat in this entire section of the swamp. So I wanted them to be able to go in the water, come out of the water, have a little bit of land to move around. And also the characters, at least if they fell in the water, they could get to land pretty quickly, right? You just got to think about these kinds of things when you're doing the map. Like, where will your characters go? What do you think they will do when they get this map? So you can just start building out your map, build the main piece. Let's say like this, the Spire, build the main piece. But as you're putting things together, just role play it out in your mind. Where are those characters going to go? Where are the tokens going to end up? Is someone going to go running down, maybe go behind the castle or jump across the moat to do something else, maybe throw a grappling hook up? It's little things like that. So you can see there I'm kind of putting down a lot of the grass. I didn't use too much of this for whatever the reason. I just kind of skimped on that. There again, I'm kind of taking one model, copying it and fleshing it out. And using that volume expander to just make it not just a huge bush that is spread out all over the base of the castle. But I think it's important to capture the atmosphere in places like this. You're not seeing, I think later in the video it does come up this way, but you'll see later I kind of put in the lighting and mist and fog and all those kinds of things, right? You really want to try to capture the feeling of the environment. That was really important to me, that they feel like they're in that swamp in this area. So there is a little bit of darker lighting, not super dark because they actually assailed the castle in the morning, mid-morning, not like late at night. But I think a couple times in here, I actually used the night scheme, and I had forgotten that we didn't assail the castle late at night, which is typically what most people do, I think, is attack at night. But they attacked like 11 a.m. or something like that. But here I am now. I am not building the interior of the castle Not the scope of this. I just needed to put in there, the spire itself and that deep hole where they could rappel down and the spiders could also come up. Here I'm messing with some lighting. I ended up nixing this because I forgot that the castle took place during the morning, this attack. So I spent a lot of time setting up these blue lights. I like the idea of the blue lights in the swamp. There's enough green there with the swamp water, but I wanted to kind of put some lights up to kind of get this eerie cascade, this kind of eerie feeling around the castle. Man, did I spend a lot of time on that. I spent a little too much time on that. Here we are putting the flames into those swamp waters. Another hazard, someone could, fall into it from top of the spire. It's little things in the water and around the area that make it difficult, just slightly difficult to get around. So you can slow some enemies down and sometimes the PCs. But now here I'm near the end of this. This took about 4 hours to do, let's say, anywhere between 3 and 4 hours. As a matter of fact, when we get to the end of this video, hopefully I'll show you the final result, because I kind of stopped it, but then I went back and added a few things. You can see here all the final details are coming in, the grass around the edges. I'm trying to hide a lot of those edge marks with the rocks that are technically land masses right now, or the shoreline, trying to hide all that. As you can see here, I'm kind of putting all those little bushes in, and that's why the volume scaler was so great. I can make those things so wide and long and hide all that stuff. And I think you got to be careful with details. Just remember that. You got to be careful with them. This looks like a lot, and it was, but sometimes you can get lost in the details. You don't want to put too much stuff down. I'm not talking about you might jack your frame rates or anything like that. It's just that you can get consumed by details, and the next thing you know, you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours on a map. I am a designer by trade, and that's one thing I've kind of been training myself to get out of. It's just stop focusing on so much details. Just get the main ideas there, and then sprinkle it and pepper it with a little bit of, a couple things, a couple items, but just don't go crazy with details. Because that, I think you'll find the details, both in your map design and probably your outlines for your adventures, you get lost in those. And those typically take the most time, when actually you probably shouldn't be spending that much time on those kinds of things, right? I wouldn't consider that a pro tip. It's amateur tip. All right, I think when you're in the end, I'm sitting there, okay, now I'm messing with the lighting. Usually I kind of do that interspersely when I'm creating the map. I'll do it at random times just to check things, make sure they look pretty cool. So fixing the top wall there, messing around. I didn't put a roof. The book actually talks about there's a roof there. I didn't put that on there. There wasn't really a model that fit that, and I felt like that would be a hassle. That'd be a hassle to work with. So I just kept the top open so I could reach in, grab tokens, and pull them up. There you can see I was going crazy with the lighting there. That looks good. I think there's a good amount of detail there. It works great, just in case they hang down at the bottom of the base, or the base of the tower. Anyway, guys, I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. This next shots coming in are going to be the final shots. We'll slow it down, get out of that time lapse, and just show you the last few details I made and how it looks currently. All right, guys, here it is. Here is the final map. Now, I saved it exactly where we left off last night when we played, but you can see here I added a bit more, a little more vegetation up top. Of course, here are the crocodiles, mainly because Frulam kept falling down the spire, which is a ridiculous story, but crocodiles in the moats. And you can see here, now these lines here I drew in with the pen tool. They're not really supposed to be there, but I was trying to show where the rope was. Kind of messed that up a little bit, but here it is. Here you can see where everything is. This is these X's here I drew on there because that's where some of the webbing was on fire. But this is where the battle took place. All the spiders are dead right now. But this is where they kind of ended up, on top of the spire here fighting, and of course way down below here. And what you can see here, let me switch to a better camera view. I put in just a few things, nothing major. You don't want to, again, the details, right? I don't want to spend too much time there because I knew we weren't going to spend too much time on this model. But, just a door so you can see where to go, a couple scaffoldings, and this, again, these are just pen marks. It really shouldn't be there. But this is where everybody ended up. Storm, Thimbraeus, who jumped on a spider's back and rode it down into the spire, and of course our pixie. And you can see it's quite a bit of a leap for them. There it is. Okay, It's about 80 feet, I think 80, I think around 80 to 100 feet is what we said. There's no really directions on that or details on that in the book. So anyway, guys, don't want to waste too much more time here, but this is it. This is the castle. I love this little blue light that's going on in there. This is what it looks like. This is what it ended up. And of course, hopefully I won't, and now we're kind of into the castle. So now it's just like 2D. I can rely upon my 2D maps to get us the rest of the way. But I mean, get this focused here. Okay, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. More Tabletop Simulator maps to come as my characters continue to make wacky choices. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.